What you know about me? I seen it all, heard it all. Oh, what you know about me? I done it all, just want it all. Oh, what you know about me? I seen it all, heard it all. Oh, what you know about me? Oh, what you know about me? Oh, what you know about me?
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of More Than a Title. I don't know why the intro just hit differently on Fridays.
It's a Friday, baby. Happy Friday.
I'm
move the shoulders in this motherfucker. Let's go. Hey man, everybody, listen. I don't know a motherfucker that don't love a Friday. You heard me?
I love it, baby. You already know, man. Welcome to another episode 144 More Than a Title. I'm your host as usual, Jarrett, Chief Revenue Officer at Outside the Box Digital, and you've already met my brother, my brethren, your favorite CEO, Chadeo. What's good, baby?
We in the building. I ain't gonna lie. I went to the gym early. I got my hendendu. You got your hand? Oh, we ready to part, baby. Ready to part. And you know how we like to start every show, man. G&T, man. Grateful and thankful. I'm grateful that I woke up this morning. Got the chance to see another day. I went on my stories today, man. I ain't gonna lie. I was on Instagram and Facebook, and I seen a lot of people passing. Yeah. Sent my condolences out there. Yeah. We are losing a lot of our people, ladies and gentlemen, at a very young age. I'm talking people dropping in their 40s and stuff. I have to say this, right? Please, man, reach out to your loved ones. Reach out to the people that you care for. Just send them a text message. Say, I'm just thinking about you. Check in on the people that you care about, man, because the way that society is moving today, it is not promised tomorrow, right? So that's why we always say grateful and thankful. Grateful first to wake up and be able to do what we love with the people that we love and for the people that we love, and thankful for everybody, the fans, the supporters, our family, our friends, extended family, extended friends for supporting the show. G&T, we love y'all. This show cannot be put on without y'all, man. We love y'all.
He's partying.
Listen, I seen some shit on Facebook. I had to, like, it really almost broke me down, bro. I was with the big homie in Old Timers Day. I'm 45. He must be like 50, 52. And they like, yo, RIP to Ron. I'm like, who? I was just with Ron like 2-3 weeks ago. And they like, yeah, man.
Oh,
and I'm being honest, cuz I seen him. You know how we not doctors, but sometimes you can see when somebody's ill, right?
Yeah.
I didn't see nothing. It didn't show no physical signs of him being ill. When somebody's, that kind of ill, most of the time you can see it or feel it. I didn't see. You understand? So that's what I'm just saying, man. Like, we stop putting priorities into the material shit, the cars and the money. All that shit don't fucking matter. It's the human relations that matter. It's the memories that you make with the people that you care about. That's what matters. That's what we carry with us, people. Let's get this shit together, man.
Message. It's going and flowing, Coco. But we about to go, before we get into this amazing show, this amazing queen, we about to, first of all, shout out to our distribution partners, the Live Podcast Network, the first woman-owned, black-owned podcast network, and the biggest black-owned podcast network in the world. Shout out to Angelina for the entire team. Scan the QR code. So if you want more content like More Than the Title, make sure y'all download the app, and half of your subscription goes to the content creator of your choice. So we are going to win together. We're going to win this together. We rocking with the brand. We are part of Alive, and we damn sure proud. You dig?
What a time to be alive. Look how you look. I love you, cuz. You see how you be segueing right into shit like, what a time to be alive.
Steve Mask. Come on, baby.
Layup, baby. Steve Mask.
And now we there. Got to give a layup to ourselves, right? Like, so if you got your phone out already, scan the QR code. You get the How to Build Relationships and Revenue course built by Chadeo and myself. We got the More Than Title hoodies, the mugs. We're going to have the Hindendu recipes. We
got new, and ladies and gentlemen, we got new, me and Cuzzo just was talking about it. We got new hoodies with new affirmations going on the back. We're working on them now, so be on the lookout for that. We got new affirmations going on the back, man. Definitely. New flavors.
New flavors. And with that being said, let's get into it.
Let's start the show.
Get into it. First of all, let's give this queen this proper introduction, right?
Absolutely.
First of all, this queen journey begins with a passion for storytelling. She honed through internships with major media outlets like NBC5 and the Chicago Tribune. With a degree in journalism from Loyola University in Chicago, she has made a mark in the PR world, working with top agencies and coordinating high-profile media events. Her diverse background includes content creation and digital marketing, to building media relationships, and publishing studies for Chicago's Crane's Business.
Shout out.
Woo, Chi-Town in the city, baby. Windy City. Yeah. Let's give it up for our girl, Miss Coco Sharp, y'all.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to the show, Queen.
Welcome.
I'm so happy to be here. It's so nice.
Oh man, welcome to the show, Queen. Welcome to the show. We're so happy to have you. We can't express this enough, man. We love to see our people succeed, and that's why we give those type of intros, right? I don't know, if you used to getting, hearing your accolades, read back to you like that, but we need to hear that. Our people need to hear that, right? Because there's young Cocos out there that are aspiring to be where you at, and they're gonna listen to this and look at you and be like, I'm ready. I'm gonna be the next Coco.
Message. I hope that's the case. That's I feel like for people that I've met in the industry and just anyone of color who's just in their career, and you can just tell they've worked their way up. They are always an inspiration. So I hope that anyone can learn from me, and I'm really excited to be here. So I really appreciate it.
They will learn from you.
They absolutely will learn from you.
I ain't gonna lie, Coco. You gotta have some fun in the beginning. Your name, you said you got an entertainment name. Coco Sharp sound like a rapper. I ain't gonna lie to you. I love it.
I've been told, yes.
Name like your parents named you Coco? Like that was one of my first questions right off the back. I ain't gonna lie.
Yes, everyone thinks that my name is either Courtney or Chloe, or I think that there's a basketball player that's KO. So no one thinks that Coco's my real name,
right?
And it is. And it's very exciting because I think that I've really grown into my name when I was younger, and people are like, "Oh, are you sure your name's not Chloe?" And I'm like, I am sure of my name. And so now it really is. I think I'm a lot closer to it. I think especially as I move up in the industry and do different things and kind of start trailblazing in different creative paths that I have, I really love that my name is unique and something that, it is a nice conversation starter. So I appreciate that.
Well, let's jump into that, because culturally, let's start at your upbringing, right? When you're growing up as young Coco, right? Children can be very abrasive, right? And with a name like Coco, that's not common. That kind of sounds like, it's a nickname. Did you face any real opposition, or your peers kind of make fun of you and things of that nature? Did you find it hard to fit in with a name like Coco starting out?
I did, and not particularly for that reason. So I am biracial, and my mom is white, and I've spent most of my life with her as well. My mom has been a single parent since I was very young. And so I think that there was a lot of people not understanding kind of that correlation. And I think there's a lack of understanding there. And again, I think that a lot of people were surprised by the uniqueness of my name. I wouldn't say that I was necessarily made fun of it for it when I was younger, but I think that it stood out. And that's happened in different instances. But I would definitely say that my background, not specific to my name, but specifically to, my relationship with my mom, and just that we look different. And especially in the early 2000s, even still, that is a conversation starter. And sometimes people don't always understand that conversation. So that's kind of where I think there's a bit of that, to answer your question.
Yeah.
But also corporately, right? Like corporate opportunities. Like there's been studies, right, in the industry, like for especially for Black women, and you know what I mean? Like Keisha's not gonna get the look that Courtney gets, right? So if a job, a big name brand of whatever industry, whatever holding code you name, if they see that name, unless your accolades really show, it's going to be super hard. So I love the fact that you're leaning into it, and really, I would give you advice to just build the brand around it. Do it, just do it, just be you.
Yeah,
and it's going to work.
Yeah, well, he can say that because his name is Jarrett. So Jarrett is so safe.
I walked my way right into doing that. They ain't expect me to come in there.
Jarrett is so safe, so he can say that, right? But I'm gonna tell you, Courtney, right? Being a person that has climbed the ranks myself, I've faced that, right? Because my name is Chad Everett, right? So everybody calls me Chadeo. But when they see my resume and it says Chad, but then my last name is Fernandez, right? So when I walk into the room, they like, Chad. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they don't think he's a Fernandez.
Yeah, right. So we looking for Chad. Yeah, right here. And they're like, wait, you're Chad? I'm like, yes, I am. And then I talk like this. I definitely don't change up the voice. I talk like this, and I talk with that emphasis and that, that passion. So I definitely understand what Cuzzo's talking about, right? Your name can get you into doors before your resume does. Because like he said, they've done studies and they found out that when people are job searching and they get your resume, they will actually look at resumes and look at names. And if you have a name that they figure is not culturally proper, they will crumble up your resume and throw it in the garbage before they even give the person an opportunity to show their talent.
Right. Yeah. I think there's a lot of truth to that. And I think that people that are also darker than me, I've seen in real time, have really suffered that. And I think that also culturally, people have leaned into more culturally relevant names so that they don't have that situation happen. And so I think for me, and we can certainly, I imagine we'll start talking about this soon, but I network a lot. So when I'm on LinkedIn, I give my first impression just because I like meeting new people. And, there's been a couple of guest speakers that I'm familiar with just based off of LinkedIn and things like that. And I think I wanted to make sure that people, I did have that in the back of my mind. But I really wanted to come from a place of, I just want people to get to know me, and I want to continue to build a professional community and build relationships. And so I wanted people to have a first impression of me, whether that be written or hopefully over video, to kind of suppress that judgment, perhaps. But I am very much aware that is something as well. And again, it's for me, I think I've experienced, because of the uniqueness of my name, that people have always asked, hey, is that your real name? And I think that people usually come in and they're very curious at first, but I completely understand people that have names that are relevant to their culture, specifically African culture, really have struggled with that, have brought that to my attention when I've, either helped in mentorship or just a peer, and that is really unfortunate.
Yeah.
Message. Can I just say something real quick?
Yeah.
You're going. Your career's gonna go. The way you articulate right now, just even on the show, right? Like I can just tell at your age right now, I'm not gonna say your age or nothing like that, but the way you talk, coming from somebody who's been in corporate, you keep that mindset, you're gonna go a lot of places. You're gonna go super far.
Well, thank you very much.
You know what I mean? But you also did something that was super unique too, right? Tell us about the internship. So you was in high school, right? And then just tell us, I would love to know about that, because it was a very unique path.
Certainly. Yeah. So when I was in high school, I was really fortunate. I went to a Montessori high school in Evanston, and we had an opportunity prior to graduating our senior year. We had 2 weeks essentially to fulfill just a creative path. As long as you weren't sitting around watching Netflix, they were like, just go out into the world, see what you want to do. And I knew going into college, I'd already been accepted, that I wanted to get into journalism. However, I didn't know which facet of journalism I wanted to go into, whether it be print, radio, or television/broadcast. And so I essentially went and I asked, and again, this is just, ask and you shall receive. I specifically told my school, I said, I'm going to go on a journalism path. I'm going to see, my goal is to see which path I want to take at the end of this. And then I will tell my college, which is exactly what I did. And in that time, I connected with someone who's on a radio talk show host, Scott Duff on WCPT. They're a wonderful community, great radio station. So I had a lot of fun there. At the time, I was invited to an event where J.B. Pritzker was also running for governor, and it was a really crazy experience. I met a ton of people who were amazing in politics. And then I reached out to NBC5 and here in Chicago, and I said, hey, I know this is a really unique request, but do you offer shadow days or anything like that? And I met with, at the time, she was the floor director of the writer's room. She was like, hey, Mother Color was like, I'm more than happy to make this work. I met some of the news anchors. I have been, sending them some Happy New Year cards ever since. And I just asked. And so those were kind of, I would say, were not internships because they were just within about a week span, but it was something that I gained experience. And then my first year, I had then also been working on the side doing this was happening, and prior to that, I was working for a blog that was specific to Chicago and Chicago culture that was doing quite well, and it was kind of the first of its kind, essentially, in the way that it was. And we focused on a lot of like talent that was really cool poets that I've met. Rach Jackson's an amazing poet. She's also been part of like Grand Slams. And then I also met some artists here in Chicago as well. It was so rewarding and enriching. And so I think that kind of after that, and I realized I loved blog journalism. I was not a huge fan of print journalism. I have huge respect for print journalists. But then I went into college and I said, all right, I'm getting into broadcast journalism. And while I do that, I'm going to find ways, because a lot of times what happens when you are in high school and also college is when you're looking for internships, you typically have to be a junior. And because I had had this experience, I tried to leverage that in a way, and especially amidst social media gaining its traction, I was like, hey, I've actually done social media stuff. And at the time I was like physically writing out like all of the insights and metrics for how well a post was doing. That's how long ago this was, or long ago, I guess. So that was kind of what I was doing. And I was paying attention to engagement. The way we look at attention and engagement right now is so different than back in 2016, 2017. And I think that at the end of the day, and I tell a lot of people that I have had the pleasure and opportunity to mentor, is asking you shall receive. There's so many people that I know that won't reach out to someone because of their title, because they feel intimidated in that space. And they go, oh, well, what if I get rejected? If you get rejected, you're just not going to get an answer on LinkedIn. That's all it is. And even then, when I have gone through looking for jobs, when I've been reaching out to people, I'm very diligent with it. And I have sort of a protocol of how I do that. And so I think for people and young people who are looking to get into the job market now, it is really just asking for what you want. I know that can be difficult given, inflation, current living situations, etc. But if there is that part of you that is, clearly on this journey and you want to connect with people, a lot of these C-suiters, and I'm sure you've kind of seen probably the back half of this with just having these conversations with
absolutely
so CEOs, CMOs, etc., is a lot of them are excited that young people want to connect with them, and I would love, it's such a great mentorship opportunity, and that's why I tell people, I'm like, if you are great that you connected with a recruiter, but go see, who has your job, who has the job that you want, who's the title that you have, and ask them what it's like. And even then, if you don't get a response, keep it going. There's more than 5 people at a company. I'll tell you that much. And there's so many people who will respond to you, and they will also see the potential in you because you reached out, and a lot of people don't.
You got a lot of, you spent a lot of game. It was a lot of shit. I didn't want to stop you, but you was flowing and going.
No, feel free to.
You just gave a master class, man. That you just gave a master class.
No, that was real. I wish I had that mindset. Real shit. I didn't have that mindset, but you're absolutely right. We experienced the same thing. When we reach out, we just spoke about this on Tuesday with Lola. A lot of our interviews and how I got my first mentor, Solomon Choi, CEO of 16 Handles, God rest his soul, man. Miss my brother, but had him on the show. Just asked. You would think somebody who runs 50 stores and has 50 franchises, multi-million or whatever it is, super successful. You how could you make time for me? And they will. They want to. It's just asking the right questions, learning, and just providing value. It's not always, nothing's transactional. Nothing has to be transactional. Get to know people and stuff like that. But you said something interesting too, because you said you like blog journalism versus traditional. What's the difference? What
I just wanted to add it to what you said before we go into that. You did that, but you had already put yourself in position. I don't want to skip past that.
No, fact though.
If you notice what Coco said, she had already did the job and she was leveraging that. You didn't reach out to Solomon Choi until you already built your brand to a certain point where you know that if somebody researched you, that they could see that you're putting in the work. That's very important. Before you make the ask, people, please do the work first. Put yourself in a position where the yes can be easy. Right? It can be an easy yes, because if you don't do the work, then it just looks like you're using a person for their resources, and that's not the way you want to start a relationship. So I just wanted to add that in, Cuzzo.
That's a fact. I ain't mad at it.
I agree. And to really touch on that, when I've spoken with younger professionals and they are looking to reach out to someone and they don't know how to reach out, what I say is tell them who you are. They got to know who you are. And ask them, I always say this, is like, ask them about the company culture, because that is something where you are asking them in particular for their experience, that they can add value to you in that, whether they respond to you, whether they say, hey, let's get on a call. But you are still in the context of asking about them. And so I always like to make sure that people know that, who are trying to get comfortable with that process, because again, like you said, it's adding value. And that's why I constantly think about, I think that relationships, we don't want them to seem as transactional. I'm really fortunate where I have cultivated relationships because I'm consistent. I send cards, I handwritten notes, do things, and I add those things. But even if you're not doing that, it's, if you see on LinkedIn that someone's birthday or someone's work anniversary, you just click the thing that says automatically happy anniversary, happy birthday. And even little things like that, I think really help, because even though you may not have typed it out, it tells them that you're thinking about them, and everyone's got a busy day and you took the time to do that. So that is something that is a really great way in adding value. When you start adding those people and you start building your roster of professionals, friends, even, that is something that I've always done on Facebook, which I know is a little bit is a little archaic now, but I always like to do that because, that's just something that you add, and it's a cherry on top for someone to even tell you yes.
Message. Just yesterday, I had an example of just yesterday. I would also say I like the fact that you're right about the ease of the automated message, but just take it a step further, like 2 minutes. It takes 2 minutes. Like, for instance, we were talking to Todd Kaplan. He's the CMO of Heinz Kraft, right? He was the CMO of Pepsi. Now he just started the new job. He put up something, yada yada, 200 comments, 890 likes. I put something up. I looked at it. I scrolled in, zoomed into the picture. He had on some gold Jordan 1s. I'm like, what the? Shit is kind of fly. I didn't think you would have those. You know what I'm saying? Those are kind of flyer. So I put that. I was like, yo, I don't know if those are Dunks or Jordan 1s, but yo, those are fire. Well played, sir. Now, out of 200 comments, I get a comment back. Why? Because it was unique. You could tell I looked in the comment, I looked at the post, I had some thoughtfulness to it, and I was still my unique self. So the things like that, sometimes just regular touches, right? Like, we've had the CEO of Stars like a post with a medium rare steak on LinkedIn. That has nothing to do with business. Like, who gives a shit? But maybe he was in a steakhouse. You know what I'm saying? Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe he just like steak.
That's it, right? And that's the commonality, right? And that can make it. So it could be something as simple as that. So even if you do the automated, or even just want to take a little time, be creative, and you can really get that answer.
Absolutely.
What that is it's showing your personality, Jarrett. With the automated messages, and I'm gonna tell you like this, Coco. Like, when we connect on LinkedIn with other business professionals, right? This is not my first C-suite position. I've run other companies. I'm a CEO of multiple companies. When I get automated messages that are just generic, I just ignore them because I know that they're generic. You understand what I'm saying? So what my cousin said is absolutely right. Right? You want to talk to me, and it doesn't matter what level I'm at. If you want to talk to me, if you're reaching out to me in any capacity and you want my attention, then you have to show that you've actually paid attention and you want to get my attention. Sending me an automate now, happy birthday or something, I'll always be appreciative of that.
Happy birthday,
right? Yeah. Absolutely. But, a lot of the automated messages, right? Cold emails, and that's why those things don't work, because they don't have the human factor in it, right? It just seems so robotic, and it's like, well, you're sending this to me, you're sending it to a bunch of other people. Well, let them respond to it.
And you are so right, because now it is robotic, because now you can use Chat GPT, which also the other thing that I've told people as well when they are looking to reach out to other professionals on LinkedIn is that you will actually get a message saying this is AI generated. No one wants to look at that because they think it's either a sales pitch, they think it's junk, whatever it is. No one takes the time.
I did not know that LinkedIn does that.
Yeah, if you go on, like, if you were to message, probably we're already friends. So if you go to message someone you don't know, it'll give you the option of, hey, Jarrett, just wanted to say I want to connect with you on the podcast or whatever. And it'll give you a suggested link. And when you do that, it will say that it's AI generated, or essentially what'll happen is it'll come up, and instead of like a manila color, it'll come up as like a blue color, because it's like indicating that's AI generated. So things like that is like AI, and we can totally talk about this, but AI is such a helpful tool. It is not the solution. It is helpful to the solution, but it is not the solution, because again, when we're in a world as we increase in technology, we want to make sure that we are maintaining the human element, because there's a lot of fear around automated messaging and AI. So things like that, I tell people, nope. It is, you can ask ChatGPT, hey, how can I write a more thoughtful note, or how can I add this, question? Then copy and paste it to people you're sending it to. Do not use ChatGPT or AI to have that be the solvent when you are reaching out to people, specifically on LinkedIn.
Message. Learn something new every day.
I'm sitting there going through my messages too. I'm wondering if I got. I'm sitting there like, who the fuck?
I'm sure if you get like a sales thing, you will see that, even though they're different. Like your business profile, it'll tell you like, hey, this is another business, a B2B exchange, but you will see they're like different colors. So take.
I actually opened up my LinkedIn and went into my messages to see that while she was talking. I went into my LinkedIn like,
that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm like, who this Logan? You AI'd me, and I responded. I took time out my day.
AI'd me is crazy.
Hey yo. Hey yo.
AI'd me is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the tone.
It was the tone. I get it.
The tone.
Yeah, damn it. Early in the episode too.
Sorry, I thought that was genuine.
Yeah, right. Like
no, but let me tell you, like, and my cousin tells these stories a lot, and it's a direct reflection on what you just said, right? When he had lost his job and when he was looking for a new job and he created a post, he took things that people he know would respond to. So he created like an NBA post and said, hey, Jarrett's a free agent. And you understand what I'm saying? Even people that he's reached out to that has had similar last names, he said, hey, cousin, you understand? And that opened the door, like, hey, cousin, because they had the same last name, even though obviously they're not related. But again, it shows that you're taking that personal touch to it, and you're like, oh, that was cute. Like, okay, let me see what you're about, because obviously your personality shines through, and it shows that you're taking the time to get my attention, right?
There's no leave me unread anyway. Might as well be creative. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna not read it and have some sour wax stuff on my name. Respect my name.
Well, and even the thing that I have told people who are of color that I have given professional direction about is, if you're a person of color, there's not a lot of us in corporate. Reach out to those people, especially in communications, whatever it is, especially in corporate, is reach out to those people. And they, again, as much as you might reach out to a C-suite or to a VP and SVP, and again, I think that exchange can be quite lovely, because, that person might say, hey, this is a mentoring opportunity. But on top of that, if you're reaching out to someone who identifies, who looks like you, even I had a friend who was like, oh, well, I'm a white woman in this industry. You're a woman. Like, reach out to your demographic, because those people will be likely to engage with your content. Like, people don't always think about this on LinkedIn, is like, your LinkedIn page is a handshake, a virtual handshake. That is also not my quote, by the way, but I've seen it before. It's a virtual handshake. It's a resume. It is saying, I am. Yeah. And it's something where, again, it's a virtual handshake. And so if you are finding people who are similar, it really helps to connect off of not just the school you went to, or, your school's alumni database, especially. Also, some people haven't gone to 4-year schools, right? And so even if you don't, it is finding someone who looks like you to say, hey, you're a role model in this industry. That right there is the value. That right there is saying, I identify with you and what you've done to get here. And here's me looking up to you. So they're going to see the value of that and the value of that relationship quite quickly, which is a benefit to women, to people of color specifically, and to those folks who are in minority situations. Yeah.
You remind me of another guest of ours who was our sister, Dr. Janice. I got to make the introduction.
Certainly.
I gotta make the introduction.
I saw that episode too, and I quite enjoyed that. So yeah.
No, Dr. Janice is the truth. You remind me of it. Like, you're going to go places. I promise you. Like, just keep the mindset, keep the way you are. But I am curious now, even early in your career, what is one of the biggest challenges you face so far? Like, you as a Black woman in corporate, what is one of the biggest challenges?
I would say in particular, and I'm sure you guys know this too, just being Black, is people constantly undermine you. And I think that where it often starts, and where I've spoken to people about this, is it always starts in the interview process. Now, I think for my most recent job, and it depends, but I think that I've had, looking at the past couple of jobs I've had, there have been situations, there haven't been, but I've seen more particularly, and again, with people that maybe don't have a culturally quote unquote relevant name that would identify in that way, they feel undermined right off the bat, like their presence. So for me, I kind of try not to have that mindset going in, but I can tell based on the line of questioning, based on someone's tonality and someone's demeanor. And I think that what happens is, and a friend of mine, actually, she's in theater, and she said, job searching, she was on a job hunt as well. She was like, it's like theater. You are auditioning. You don't take that personally. You come up as yourself and you are authentic about it. And I in that when I was job hunting and looking for the job and the title that I currently have. And I was really, my company has been amazing. I've met some amazing individuals and they've been great to work for, and the clients are amazing. But even in the process before I got that job and when I was interviewing, I did have some people who were like, well, would you be more interested in this or that or a different field? And, and I said, no, like, I really love, like, and also, again, this is one exchange that you're meeting me, but socially as well. And, and how I met you guys, I'm a very extroverted person. I am someone who knows a person to know a person. I don't say that, in a way, but I really enjoy connecting other people and helping other people. And so when someone was telling me a little bit about, like, well, what about this role? And I'm like, that's a little bit more introverted. I would, of course, love to, meet the people who are hiring, or, and I would obviously want to pursue, a relationship with that company, regardless of what it turned out to. But I think a lot of people, would take that personally and be like, oh, well, they don't believe in me and da-da-da. And I'm like, no, just look at it as everything is an opportunity. And if it doesn't work out, it is not meant for you. It does not mean anything bad about who you are as a person. Your identity is something that should be celebrated, and a company will let you know if they celebrate that or not. And that should be very true to you. And that should be the thing that you look for when looking for a job. Again, I know that we got to get that bag, but that is something that you should look for. So I think that, again, it's more in the hiring process, or in the job search, that I did come to terms with the mindset I had to have, and just not taking things personally. And it does take a couple of tries, and I think that good and bad, but given the current job climate, you're going to have a lot of tries and a lot of opportunities. And so I think that the more you're told no, the better it's going to be when you understand your value, because you're going to be the one saying yes, not them necessarily.
I want to do a funny skit with you in New York, Coco. You want to be like an articulate person. I want to be like, yeah, fuck these people that. What he means to say is,
I'm ready for that. Yeah.
It's gonna be so funny. Like what Jarrett and Chadeo mean to say is, they don't like the way you're coming off to them.
Well, if you articulate it, let me sign it, because when motherfuckers don't know the.
No.
I was thinking of, have you seen the Key and Peele sketch with the Obama's angry translator?
Yes.
I'll be Obama, and that's a crazy thing to say, and you'll be the angry translator.
I would love it. We gotta do the reverse. We gotta do both.
That's one of my favorite skits. I love that skit.
I would love to do that. No, we're doing it.
Such a good clip. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
We're doing it. That would be hilarious.
Yeah.
But now you say a lot of real things. So where you are right now in your career, like where do you see? Because we ask a lot of people this, and being like one of our youngest guests, I'm curious, where's the mountaintop for you? Where do you see your career in the next 10 years?
Yeah, so I am the type of person where I don't remember what I ate today. So when people ask
that was
me,
real.
I'm like,
there goes Coco.
Wait a second, it's 5:00. So, and this is something that I also say to people I've spoken with, and they happen to be younger, which is that there's a lot of pressure right now on anyone who's on social media, really, and also younger individuals, to perform at a level, be an entrepreneur, create business, and make it fast. And I think what I'm looking forward to is not necessarily the destination, but the journey, which is essentially how, and the question I recently have been asking myself, and literally within the past, 3 months or something, is number one, what value do I want to add to whatever it is I'm doing? And one of the values that has come to me from my friends is saying that you need to speak more. So that's something that I would love to do. I also see myself developing my creativity in whatever way that is. I believe that might be my voice and speaking about things. I'm not 100% yet. But I think when I'm looking at, I love PR, I love communications. I've learned so much from social media, and I'm also like a huge brand buff. I love looking at trends and identifying those things. And I can imagine that my career will be very thematic and in those trends of my life. But I think that what I see more so are concepts that I'm a very skill focused person. So I'm like, I want to focus on this and this and this. And so I usually kind of create a crash course for myself and give myself in a lot of period of time to sort of develop a skill and give myself opportunities within that. So I've kind of like, this is a hard answer, I would say, but I'm looking to regardless develop to make myself, to portray my value and to really connect with people and relationship build, and then also see to my creativity in whichever way that unfolds.
I mean, it's an honest answer.
I'm impressed.
No, it's an honest answer. And I just want you to take comfort in the fact that you can express your honest answer with authority and say, this is my answer, right? This is your answer, and you should be allowed to have your answer. And whatever that answer looks like, right? As long as that's what you want to do, then that's what you do. You understand what I'm saying? We believe in individualism, right? And creativity and things of that nature is something that comes from within. My creativity is, we might share similar creative traits, me and my cousin, but we have different creative traits, as you have different creative traits, right? So listen, your journey is your journey alone, right? And if you can't enjoy traveling your journey, then you can't expect nobody else to either one, support it, or two, help enjoy it with you, because they're going to feed off of your energy. So it starts with you.
You got to listen to him. You can learn something.
No, thank you so much. I think that, and as I think we'll perhaps go back, because I know you had a question about blog versus print, but I think that the biggest thing that's thematic in my life, my professional life, and perhaps my personal, is storytelling. And I started in journalism, doing blogs, working on blogs, and then working through broadcasts, and now I've landed in PR. And I've landed in a really cool place at a really cool company. And so I think that being in PR, regardless, I think that anyone, I mean, I know I'm biased here, anyone should try like a year or, just a part of your career in PR, because, and especially in agency, because you learn so many different skills all at once. And that to me is very helpful, because I'm very goal oriented. Yeah. And so I think that, regardless, again, wherever my creativity lies, but I think, I really just want to continue to learn in the field. And, I've met so many people who are in PR who I actually connected with one of your previous guests, Lewis Williams, who's the
Lou.
That's how I found out about you guys. Yeah. And so he, we had met, and ironically, his company is my sister company. So we had connected, and then he told me about your show. But things like that, where I never expected that. I had met him kind of through a friend of mine, and I learned so much. And I'm not even in the creative department, and so there's just so much to do, so much to learn, and the type of clients you have too. You might be in healthcare, you might learn a lot about agriculture, you might learn a lot about consumerism. So I think that, it's a really entertaining field for anyone who's out there listening, who's interested in PR.
But now let's give them context too. You're at one of the biggest PR firms in the world. So let's give them that context. Right? Let's give them that context. You're at Real Talk. That's
what I would love to do is, if you can, Coco, could you actually, because again, right, us as C-suite individuals that have been VPs and been in business at a certain level, we understand the nomenclature and what that means. Could you break down the actual term? Right. I'm on my big
no, you got him pardoned. You got him pardoned, Coco. What did he's never in 144 episodes? Use nomenclature.
I was like, okay.
My 4-syllable words. That's 2 days in a row. I didn't put out 4 syllables.
I thought it was like a Friday. I was like, oh, okay, we're going with some work here. Yeah.
Shit.
I love that clip.
Blame it on the Hindendu.
He said the nomenclature. I love it, bro. Props to you, bro.
If you could, right? Because we have a lot of audio listeners and we have a lot of listeners that we're trying to educate, right? So, could you break down what a PR specialist actually is, right? What goes into being a PR specialist and what it entails so that somebody could actually get more of an understanding to say, hey, I would like to do that. That fits, my personality or my skill set. Could you do that for us?
Absolutely. And I want to start off by answering your question with that I have not had a traditional PR background.
Okay.
And what that means is that I have not been an intern. Specifically, I've not been an intern at the company I currently work for. So you learn just different vernacular. You learn the vernacular of your team, your accounts, and things like that, where you are grown up in that professionally, you are grown up through that culture. So I just want to be clear on that.
Okay.
However, what I would say is the idea of a PR specialist, and again, PR specialists as well, I would say, and also if you're on your job search, some people mark themselves as a PR specialist. That's in my headline when you look in my LinkedIn profile, but that could vary in the title that you are. So again, just going back to when you're looking up people, don't be intimidated by a title, because hence the name of the podcast is more than a title, and there's more to the person as well. So what I'd like to say, though, to answer your question is that
my bad. That was a perfect mess. I tried to get him. He kept flowing. I was like,
no, sorry. I'm like, and please slow me down.
He's normally quick on the trigger.
I was like, he was going to the next. I was like, no, but I want to stop you now.
Yeah, no, and again, please, I'm more than happy to break down, but please let me know if you need me to go.
No, go ahead.
No, you're killing it. You're killing it. That's my fault.
So in PR, I would say, so the idea is there's different facets of PR. And so a lot of people don't know what PR is. PR is essentially, it's public relations. The way that is different from advertising or marketing is essentially the story that you are telling. And you're pretty media based as well. You're working on relationship building to make sure that your client is getting out the story, to make sure that any and ongoing campaigns that they're working on, you're making sure that you are the conduit between the media and your client. And that's specifically like an media side. We'll talk about that in a moment. But essentially the idea of being a PR specialist is you are relationship building with reporters. You are making sure that, eventually that they will know you on a name-to-name basis. You are also creating what are called media lists. So media lists are where you have the reporters, the outlets, and a little bit more information telling either your team or the client, like, hey, this is a reporter that's really great for this, this, and this, or we've worked with them before. You're also working on what are called briefs or press releases. So anytime, like, I actually just heard about, and I don't think it's a rumor, I think that's happening, but, there's a few things around, like, different brand and beauty campaigns happening, or Coach had, like kind of an AI campaign or anything that you see in like Roblox or whatever Apple's doing. I think that I heard like a little tease about that they might create like a ring instead of a watch this time for your mileage and tracking and everything and whatever you're doing for health reasons. And so you'll typically, if you see that, once that product drops, you'll see a press release. And so you're focusing on either writing that, helping the team write that, and also getting out the story of not necessarily product focused, because that's marketing's job, but you're making sure that the narrative is clear. And so there are different facets of PR. So I work in an agency, which means that we have a different focus where a company will hire us. So an example would be, we have a few clients that are pretty big that have an internal company that works on communication or communication relations, I would say. And they typically need a little bit more direction or they need support from an expert, which would be associated as agency.
To help
and so exactly. And what's really unique and nice about agencies is that, so typically, and in any company really, but especially in agency, there's a crisis comm. So if something happens and you're like, oh my gosh, this company is, someone said this, that was a big spokesperson, or this product didn't do well and there's a recall, crisis comms. There's earned media, which I said, which is really the relationship building. And you're talking to reporters and you're also letting the client know, hey, we can go ahead and set up this interview with so-and-so so that, you can promote, a new thing that launched, or et cetera, or paid influencer things. There's a digital section, and then there's also what Lewis is, which is a creative section. So that's typically taking a brand and focusing on kind of the bigger picture and the value to customers in a way that is visibly telling a story. So he's worked on a lot of campaigns that have, he comes from an advertising background, but creatives a lot. There's quite a few people as well who work in creative to make sure, hey, I love this idea for a brand campaign, or I love this idea, but we could add a little bit of spice, or we could add a little bit of connection that people would have, because this is our tone. And we want to make sure that we bridge that gap. So that's kind of what PR is. And again, there's also different facets of PR. And then there's also, again, in-house PR, which usually they will hire an agency for additional help. But regardless, you're focusing on writing, you're focusing on storytelling, you're focusing on brand storytelling in particular, and you're overall kind of looking at, I would say, kind of the baseline of what journalism is. And again, not to undermine journalism, but you're looking at some of those, some of those details, and you're kind of looking at it through the lens of telling a corporate story versus a person kind of on the street story. That's the best. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Coco is sharp.
That's a fact. we have to get those kind of answers, Coco, because again, me and my cousin did music. So when I was coming up, right, a PR person in the music industry for us, right, was a person that kept us out of trouble, right? When we go do the interviews, when I'm going to sit down at Hot 97, when we would Cypher Sounds and stuff like that, and we're doing interviews, and they ask a question, I look at the PR person, and she's like, "Motherfucker, don't say that." Give me the thumbs up or the thumbs, like, motherfucker, you're not supposed to, like, or if you get in trouble, like, in the current events now, Lil Baby got arrested for having a concealed weapon in Las Vegas. He says he has a permit for it, but that's a situation that made headlines. His PR person now would come in and say, this is how we need to spin this, or this is how we need to handle it, right? Or President Trump, former President Trump, he's still president, right? When he does things, the PR person is supposed to, and when we came up, this is what our idea of what a PR person was that person that kind of like kept your ass out of trouble, or when you got in trouble was the person that like, spin the narrative, like, listen, this is how we gonna get you out of trouble, right?
That's exactly what it is, bro. It's just on a brand, it's just on a brand corporate
No, I'm just saying, like,
scale.
but what she said was very important, because there are differences to it. So
absolutely.
Understanding that you don't have to do that. You can work on other campaigns and different things. That's what our listeners need to know, because they can go, I don't have to do that. I can still be a PR specialist but do this aspect of it. So that's why
I have to do the artist specific. They can do brand specific, right? So everything you're saying is perfect. Like that's what I was doing with social listening. I was working with PR specialists. So if something happens, I was selling the tool, Talkwalker, that actually has all those mentions come up. So if something happens, you know exactly what happens to your brand. Now it's up to the PR team to craft that story to say, hey, our sentiment is going down around our brand, right? It went from 70 to 30%. And what is it impacting? The bottom line, the dollar, right? So how do we go? And they will call your company and be like, all right, you're our partner. Let's make this happen. You got 2 days. You got 48 hours.
I'm gonna throw you an alley-oop, Coco. Boar's head. You better holler at Coco right now, because Boar's head. I have not eaten a deli sandwich, and you fucking Boar's head. You fucking up, boy. Holler at Coco.
Come on, can we eat sandwiches again? Let us know.
About to go down. No, but that's so crazy too, and I think that this is so. It is so underestimated, and I thought, I live a life outside my 9 to 5. I do. Yeah. Yeah. Work-life balance is luckily a thing at my company. I'm very fortunate. But all I can think about whenever I see campaigns, and again, I do naturally, I like focusing on campaigns, or I like being like, oh, this person worked with this brand. Yeah. But the minute I saw that with the Listeria outbreak, I was like, wow, I wonder what their PR is doing. And I was like, this is too much on screen time. So I definitely, and to go back to your point, Jarrett, you talked about sentiment, which is a huge thing, especially if you are on, again, there's different sectors, but if you are in, and also I would argue that different agencies have different names for their sectors. Yeah. But if you look at crisis comms, you might be fully in crisis comms, or sometimes you can dabble in other areas or known as practices. But especially on the consumer side, and brand sentiment is so important. And so I think that perhaps that's we'll see how that develops with these outbreaks, unfortunately. And, it's been very unfortunate for the past couple of days, just given the severity. But yeah, I definitely think that if you are interested in PR, I think that a lot of people, and I've also been on the other end of this as well, a lot of people think that it's just for celebrities, or they don't understand the difference between a PR specialist and then a publicist, which I have been both. So I was a publicist and for a few artists in Chicago and a few poets as well. And it was a really great experience. I would say that you're doing a lot. You are doing PR, you are being a journalist, you are also doing a lot of, I would say, personal, you're being a bit of more of an emotional support for your client, because that's just an individual person who's also, I would say, as much as you're expressing your creativity, they're trying to learn how to express theirs, especially if they're a musician. Right. And so when they are looking at that and they're trying to find out creativity on top of ultimately capitalizing off of their creativity as well, a lot of, I did have one person who is doing great, but initially, and I think this is also how social media starts out for some folks who are interested in, content creation, influencer work, is that they were interested, this musician in particular was interested in only being part of the trends. So they were like, well, if they do this song, I want to do something that's similar hype, similar this, similar that. And I had to sit down and have a conversation. I said, listen, I totally get you. Chicago, luckily, I think that we have a smaller market for artists. However, I want to be realistic, and I just want you to take time to digest. You don't have to respond to me quickly. Is that you cannot sit here and build a career off of other people's ideas and other people's engagement. You need to be true to yourself. I'm not a musician, but even I can see that this could head south very quickly, not just for your career, but also for your mental health. You're constantly trying to find the next best thing in their extremities, or, you're going off and collabing with people and then you're not vibing. I was like, you need to be very intentional here. You are in, respectfully, the gathering stages of your career. And with that, you need to pay attention to what your creativity is. And that's totally okay that, we love Travis Scott, we love ASAP, we love all of these people who have made amazing music, but they are who they, okay, maybe Travis is, maybe a little, but they are who they are. I'm like, I said ASAP and Travis at the same time. I was like, Chance the Rapper.
I don't want to interrupt too, Coco, but we got some great comments on Instagram. So Doug Melville is on right now. He said, Coco, and he has some questions for you. He said, what are 3 tips everyone should know about PR?
Okay.
3 tips.
Yep.
3 tips are, number 1, especially in PR, when you're building relationships, and I think this goes without saying for anything that you do, is don't take things personally. I know it's very much a human trait, but when a reporter doesn't respond to you, it is, we're going to either keep going at this until we get a yes, or we will work our way around it and have an entrepreneurial thought. So that is one tip, is to keep going until you feel that you have fulfilled what it is that you need. Number 2, I would also say, learn. That is the most important thing. And there's a lot going on in PR. There's a lot of skills that you're learning. Just be open to the fact that everything is an opportunity and you have so much to learn from it. And also the third thing is to have an open mind. I think those go hand in hand. But again, in PR, I think that you're learning at a faster speed than perhaps some jobs out there. So make sure that you're open to learning, that you are looking for opportunities, and that you don't take things personally.
You on mute, Cuzzo. You on mute, Cuzzo.
And they texting too. I'm saying I'm ready to give Doug a link. He got mad questions.
Listen, listen. I just want to sidebar. I like.
I'm sending you the link now.
I like Doug's pulling up.
Yeah, I mean he said I'm in the hot tub. I'm pulling up.
Doug's a big homie. So before Doug pulls up, Coco, listen, this is a show, so we're going to talk the business, but we like to shake it up a little. I got to ask you, and if you don't want to answer, that's fine, but you from Chi-Town, you got one of the biggest PR firms. Did Juicy Smollett holla at? Did Juicy holla at you? When Juicy was going through what he was going through, did he holla at you?
Juicy
Smollett,
Oh, just they said juicy. I'm like Juicy J from.
You with the MAGA, with the whole.
No, he definitely needed a PR team.
He definitely needed.
No, I'm about to say right. I'm saying though, before Doug comes on, would you be our de facto PR specialist? Because I can see this motherfucker doing some shit.
Who, me?
We're gonna need to know, both of us.
Oh, okay.
But you too. I feel like you're gonna do it first.
You know what? I can agree.
So we need you, Coco. Please, help
you
us,
from
please.
Chicago, so I'm just saying, you know, that whole thing that went down with Juicy. You know what I'm saying? You know, that was crazy.
Something, and I was actually having a conversation earlier with some of my family friends, which we were talking about the difference between, you know, there were a few journalists who were, to say the least, quite upset that they did not get the full access that some of these influencers were at the DNC. And again, not to get too political, but looking at the system in general and based on Kamala's campaign and how much she values young people, that comes with influencers. And so we did have, based on perhaps that demographic and looking at younger folks who are influencers and just folks in general who are content creators who invited to the DNC, there were a few really cool people who are of color as well, who came into Chicago. Also, I would say Chicago has been branded due to politics as well as being very heavily unsafe. I would say that the numbers don't lie, respectfully. However, I think that a lot of people in Chicago have developed a lot of street smarts with that. And a lot of those folks who came in at the DNC were posting a lot, being like, Chicago's so beautiful, it's so walkable, there's transportation, and there were so many highlights about the city, and especially from some of these really renowned influencers, young influencers, also of color, that I think I was really happy to hear that, because I haven't heard a lot. And we've also had Jules, who is the very demure girl as well. And it just feels like, you know, Chicago is getting, you know, regardless of your politics, but Chicago is getting quite a nice light on just what it has to offer. And so unfortunately, you know, there were some things said from that person in particular, but I think that given the cadence and just, you know, very, very mindful, very demure, very cutesy, I think that Chicago has been a lot more hopeful in sort of a lot of its endeavors, and we do have a lot to offer, and we have great food, by the way, so I'm happy to make suggestions either way.
I got two things to say about that. I got two things to say about that. If you notice that we shouted out the Alive Podcast Network, shout out to our CEO of the Alive Podcast Network, Angel Livas. She was actually at the DNC covering that, not, you know, for the brand and for the company. So shout out to Angel for that.
No, and also we just got the text too. Shout out to our bro Dave Huey. He said he wants to connect with you ASAP, Coco.
There it is. Look at that. See, already connect on the Instagram live right now. They're hearing you. Shout out to Dave.
And we like, yo, I'm putting in the comments, future CEO. You hear her, right? Like, what's up?
Yeah.
That's real. And then we're gonna connect you ASAP. So just make sure I have your number. I'm gonna make sure we start the group chat so you and Dave can connect.
I love it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So
he's got a lot of the big events. And shout out to Dave, man. Did the Rise Up events. He just did the drink with Sean Paul. Viac marketing, man. Absolutely. He actually created I forgot the Unk brands with the NBA jeans with the patches on it. That's his brand. With Houston. He's our big brother mentor, man. Shout out to Dave, man. So we definitely made that connection. Y'all can definitely do some, you know what I mean?
That's what we do,
just
Coco.
like
look, you see, look, in real time, we show that we're not gatekeeping. You see that? Mm-hmm. We normally save this for the end of the show, but now that we've already shown it to you, we can say, welcome to the More Than the Title family, right? Absolutely. By you being a guest on the show, we now give you access to previous guests that are on the show and future guests, right? Because we believe in making connections real time, whether we have business to do with what your connection ends up being or not. We don't do that. We make the connection and we step away because we don't gatekeep. We believe in providing opportunities for people as best we can. So, you know, that's just a perfect opportunity in real time of, you know, how this system works when you're not gatekeeping. So shout out to Dave and, you know, shout out to Doug for just, you know, right off the bat, you know,
brothers that real.
Absolutely.
That have showed a lot of love more than a lot of other people. You know what I'm saying? And they are two brothers. And when they say something, they do it and they pull up and they show a lot of support for us, man. So it's nothing but bulletproof love for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, you know, back to what I was saying with the DNC, you know, with that, right? We understand that the political climate is what it is, and we understand that marketing is what it is. And not to say old people don't vote, right? But obviously most of the campaigns are to get the younger vote out, right, Coco? Because they feel like the younger people are less jaded, right? They haven't had so much experience, so they're more moldable to understand what the process is, and they're more motivated to come out and seek change, because the older people that are out there, they feel like they've lived their life somewhat, and they're kind of like stuck in their path and their decision making. So when it comes to like representation and why people were invited to the DNC the way they were, I would attribute that to that aspect, right? Because this whole get out and vote, reach the younger people, get them involved early, get them understanding what it is early. That's what's been like the message for I don't know how many years at this point. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd arguably say, it does depend on the demographic, of course,
right.
But older voters are likely to be loyal to their party.
Yep.
And so I think that what is interesting about having younger people online is, and again, it kind of goes with the social media listening and understanding, as you know, Jared, which is essentially that the algorithm it molds to your niche, of course. However, there's a lot more people online and a lot more people who have something to say. And so I think that in the diversification of political points of view, which, vary from Democratic to Republican, I think it's really interesting regardless to see that, and also to see how people are digesting their news, which a lot of young folks are looking at TikTok as a search engine now, which is a really interesting conversation versus Google. And so looking at why that happens and why young folks are being targeted and perhaps I'd say valued as well in these political campaigns is definitely something to be looked at. And some folks, political candidates, because it's not just, presidency, but, we've got a lot of things going on as well in local politics as well for November, is in looking at that, it is interesting to see who prioritizes that. And that's something to look into, because again, in doing so, there's a lot of perhaps marketing backing up for that. There's a lot of things that are aiding, campaigns and where they want to make sure that people feel heard. And it just, kind of depends on which folks are prioritizing that. So, so again, like I said, I think it was really nice to see at least the diversification at the DNC for some of these creators, because they just had a huge platform. And if you think about it as well, some of these folks have millions of followers. That's like a small village. And if you combine like 3 or 4 of those people, that's higher than the population of Chicago. So that was something that was really interesting to kind of think about, and something that a family member of mine, kind of put in my ear. And I was like, that's right. It's, they're leading a small village almost. So I think that regardless though, I hope that regardless of your political views, I hope that you do come to Chicago, because we do have great food. So yeah.
I ain't gonna lie. We from the Bronx, and a lot of people are afraid to come to the Bronx, for kind of the same reason people are afraid to go to Chicago. I've never been to Chicago, but for what I've heard, I'll go. Great. But I gotta check the reciprocity laws first. I gotta make sure I can bring the.
Yeah. Because we're the type. No, we're the type. We want to go. We want to be with. I want to go to O Block. Like, you know what I mean. But if it ain't right to go to O Block,
right. But if I go to O Block, believe
Oh, we gonna be on Go Block.
I'm ready to go.
Yeah,
that's what we want to do.
Yeah.
We're gonna
definitely check your travel plans. Yes.
Yeah, check the reciprocity laws for Chicago.
That's a fact. It's wild.
Can I bring this with me?
Need to.
I want to go and eat the food, but I want to make it home too.
Right. Make it home.
Yeah.
Want to do content.
Yeah.
That shit happens everywhere out there. In a district, a good district.
That's a fact.
I don't like it.
You mentioned something also very important that we want to tap into about representation, what that looks like, right? And we have been struggling with this topic for a very long time, right? My struggle is, I feel like people only want representation when it benefits their agenda. You only care about the representation when it benefits your agenda. But when your agenda is passed or you've gotten what you wanted, then the kind of representation goes out the window. I think this is the frustration from a lot of people that say, you want the representation and you want us to show up and you want us to show out the numbers and show our support. But where is the support once we have achieved the goal and you've gotten into position? We're not seeing the attributes of that trickle back down to our communities to help us continue to strive in a better direction. How do you feel about that?
There's a couple of things with that, which is kind of going back to, especially if you are looking for a job.
Right.
Going back to connecting with people that look like you. I think that is a huge thing. Again, not to negate, because a lot of these companies, stand on, or they were built on a certain system, which, as we know, is not meant to benefit folks of color and also, people of the LGBTQ community in its structure. And so there are a lot of people, DEI officers, who are teaching that system what that looks like. Right. I would say that there have been, fortunately, companies that, and also some Gen Z companies, which is really great to see that they have a really diverse pool. I think one of the best examples for this outside of PR is Gymshark. For people that know me, they're like, oh God, we're going to hear about this again. I love Gymshark. And the reason for that, white CEO, I know that they're from the UK. He specifically, Ben Francis, will go into other communities and say, hey, I'm all hands off, but I just want to close my mouth and I want to observe. Hey guys, I want to know if this is accurate to his creative team or whomever. Also, by the way, I would love for you to create this. I trust your vision. I trust your creativity. And we've seen this time and time again. They had a protective headband they came out with. They had a hijab, which was the first athletic brand to have a hijab.
I've seen that.
To have a woman who is wearing hijab as well. Right. She's a really great, I highly suggest you follow her. She's a really great fitness influencer as well. So they have done things that, though they have a white influence at the top, per se, as a white CEO, he has also talked about the process. He's also talked with Stephen Bartlett, if you know who Stephen Bartlett is, as well. He's written
CEO, right?
Yes.
Wonderful.
We were just with him at Podcast Movement.
Yeah, Podcast Movement. Yep.
Wonderful podcast to listen to. And so you also hear about a CEO trying to make sure that that's ingrained. And also the biggest thing about Gymshark is that they have always cared about community first. And when community has a say, when they have a very intimate connection with the company, they're going to be connected to your product in a way that enforcing people to or coming out with a launch that's limited time will not. So really enjoyed. And again, we are looking at this, and obviously these issues, of course, persist. And at some traditional institutions that will continue to occur. And so I think that if you are someone who is on the job hunt, connect with people who look like you, because that is so vital. They will give you an insight to what it looks like to be them. They will also look at your potential, and they might also connect you with someone and say, hey, we know that there isn't a job here, or I think you might be better suited over here based on some of your interests, because we're not the same person, but we might stand on the same values. And so that's something that has really helped me when I have been job searching, when I've been connecting with people, is also understanding, what the institution looks like. That's why I say, what's the company culture like? Because I want to know that not just in the first year, but in, the 5 years or the 10 years I'm going to be somewhere, and when I was job searching, what that's going to look like. And honestly, are folks of color burnt out? Is this going to change based on a political climate? Are people ready to get rid of that chief of diversity officer? And so those are kind of things where I think, because I spend a lot of time looking at that, and even because I mentored folks who are recent grads, is where I said, hey, I love that you asked this question, or I love that you identify with someone, but tell me something. Look at their job descriptions, look at their job postings. Did they recently go through layoffs, and are they rehiring again? Are they pushing for multicultural roles in particular, and really see what that looks like? And you can kind of find your own, you can kind of gauge, but I think that I'm able to kind of identify those trends. Again, I love that with brands, but you can also do it with jobs too. So I think that, corporate America is corporate America. A lot of people will define that, I think, who are people of color or minorities, in a very similar tone to some extent. But I also think that there are a lot of fortunate opportunities. And someone who I really love, I'm sure you guys know Alex Hormozy, but I really love Layla Hormozy, who is...
I don't know Alex.
No, I don't know Layla. I know Alex.
I don't know Alex.
Take a
look.
I'll send you really great, very, very similar tone to Stephen Bartlett as well. But something I love that Layla talks about, and again, I want to be sensitive when I say this, is that looking at your identity as something that is going to prohibit you from doing something else, or because you're Black, or because you're this, or because you're that. I understand that there's a reality of which people, unfortunately, companies are like, we have to maintain this percentage of folks or this or that. It's not that doesn't exist. It's just not going to help you. And so what I usually tell people is you have to have the mindset. And, this is why we look at so many powerful women or so many powerful folks of color who said, I kicked some doors down and I had to ask for what I wanted. I sat there and I stood planted like a tree and I didn't budge when others. And that is where if you have that mindset, and again, if you already have surrounded yourself with people you've met on LinkedIn that look like you, that community alone, beyond your family, beyond how they identify, that will be a really great way for it to hold you accountable, and also for you to seek counsel when you do feel like you might budge, but you don't want to. So I think that that's really important for people, and to have that message. Something that Layla said was, she read off a questionnaire, which was like, well, being a woman, I just don't feel valued in this. And obviously we know that women are paid a different amount. We know that there are different experiences as well, but it's simply not going to help you. And then you all of a sudden go into a job interview and you go, well, I've already lost, or I'm not going to get paid this much, versus demanding what you want and saying, I'm meant to be here. Here's what it is. That's it. And that's where I also see I've also helped with some creators who are like, is this too much to ask for? I'm like, I'm vaguely aware of their budget, or I know that they just spent X amount on a brand campaign. Not that they were my client, but just more so like in paying attention to just local media. And they just spent X amount over here. Ask for that extra, 1 to 5K if that suits you, if that feels comfortable for you. But don't sit here and base your value off of other people, other companies' experiences, because it has to come from you first.
Message. The double message. Look, and the balloon.
It's a celebration, Coco. It's a celebration, baby.
And the balloon.
Coco came to part. I ain't lying. She going
on
now, man.
Going on.
I hope that was of help to anyone who's listening.
No, they on Instagram. No, they listening.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
They listen on LinkedIn, and Instagram, everywhere. Shout out to the YouTube fam. Yeah, everything. So I'm curious. I want to ask you a fun question, like as far as from a PR perspective, right?
Sure.
You've seen our work, right? What advice, or what if we were your client? What is something that you would implement?
Something that I would say, and this just kind of goes, this is kind of a universal thing, is we are just seeing a difference in the algorithm of social media recently, especially with TikTok. Is an example as well as, people that are blowing up aren't blowing up quote unquote as fast, but it might take them like an extra 1 to 3 days to blow up. And so with that, I would definitely implore you to post consistently. I think it really depends on the goals that you have. I think that, you have a very strong network, that the little tweaks I would kind of look at are just not just that you're posting everywhere to social media, but I'd almost say, and this is where it comes in with your skill set, Jared, which is essentially that having that ability to social media listen, and also to create, I think that this is something that helps, is like a content storyboard for the social media that you want to lean into. And so while you're posting kind of consistently on Facebook or to YouTube or to Instagram, is I would definitely look at the social media that has been the most reactive and lean into that a little bit, because what will happen is if there is maybe a question that you asked earlier, hey, Coco, what's it like to be a PR specialist? And you have a PR specialist who's on in a couple episodes, and you see that there's like, you can see the metrics or the engagement of even asking that question, or even asking what the sectors of PR looks like, you can maybe figure out a way to ask that again through that person's experience and say, hey, we did have someone on earlier, but how does that track with something that you're working with? So I wouldn't say that, at first glance there's anything wrong or that you have to significantly improve, because I think in general it just comes down to like what your goals are. But I would just say for the time being, you guys are doing a great job, is to look at social media as a tool and lean into where it's most reactive, and then being able to identify those points and say, okay, we're going to either recycle this, or we're going to even post and say, hey, Coco's a connection. Anyone want to connect? Or, Lewis and da-da-da. And I would just make sure that you are promoting on the thing that's most reactive while still telling the authentic story that is your podcast, if that makes sense. That's kind of at first point. But again, you guys are doing a great job covering all the bases.
Coco, notice, I just want to put this out there. Ladies and gentlemen, Jarrett said theoretically, please, Coco, do not invoice me later for that. I don't know what you cost the hour, but that might be something that might be outside the budget.
Outside the box. That's outside the budget.
That's a good long reason, guys.
Outside the budget.
That's the other OTB.
That was a hypothetical.
Of course.
No, we gotta make that. No, that's new shirts.
Yeah.
That's new shirts. We all in. Everything's outside the budget.
Outside the budget, baby.
Great question. Great question. I promise I won't invoice.
We are in as a culture, we are in a constant state of evolution, like the algorithm, right?
Wait, hold on. Well, my fault, bro, because we got another question.
Okay, go ahead.
Dave said he was going to ask that question. He said, how do you define blowing up?
Okay, let Dave go ahead.
I mean, that was good. I think, and feel free to chime in. So blowing up is regardless. So I would also just say how to define what viral is. Right. And so virality essentially is, again, gaining a huge engagement. Now, I would look at it as that's an anomaly of the current content that you have. So someone blowing up could be that you get 1,000 views for the past, couple of posts, and then you get 10,000. That's blowing up, I would say, I would almost classify it as micro versus a macro. Now, macro is
macro, right? I was going to say that. Yep.
Exactly. Because I think that, so essentially there are, and to answer your question in short, is that we are now looking at micro and macro influencers versus just influencers. And that takes a different camp in terms of how companies engage with influencers, whether they give them a PR package, whether they fly them out, right? So if you are posting something that went viral once and you get 1 million views, and then all of a sudden you have, 20 million likes, and then you're maybe not posting similar content, or you're not taking into account what made that post maybe go viral aside from a trending sound, something like that may not suggest that you are a macro influencer, but it might say, hey, you have a following, or we saw that you blew up and we just want to engage with you. So more so look at the micro versus the macro, but anything that's an anomaly to the current content that you have at more of an astronomical side. But Jarrett, I know that you have more of a social media listening background, so feel free to.
No, I'm with you. Now he's asked another question. He kind of piggyback on the question I asked you, like we were your client. He said, if MTAT hired a PR specialist, what would the process be and how to assess the objectives?
So the first thing I would ask is, do you have anyone supporting a PR specialist? Because I think it's very similar in the cadence of social media manager, where if that person's just doing all of your social media, sometimes you need multiple people to configure that department. If you have a TikTok social listener, if you have an Instagrammer, et cetera. And so with PR, like I said, again, depends on what you're looking for, and then the level that you would hire. Traditionally from like an agency would be like, are you looking for a manager versus someone who's a newly entry level. But a PR specialist in general who does offer expertise would cover the relationships that you have with the media. They would also look at media outreach as well. And then they would look into the markets that you'd be most applicable to grow. So I think that in general, PR specialists would handle a lot. And I think that someone like that would have to have, kind of an A and a B, maybe a small picture versus a larger picture to kind of help with either day-to-day or bigger projects, and ultimately build out, maybe a smaller department. But again, it really does depend on what your goals are. But I would also say that it can be congruent or just adjacent to needing a social media marketing group where you have kind of multiple people to fill those roles.
That's real. And to back up, piggyback what you were saying about the social listening, right? A lot of what you were saying is spot on, right? So that's essentially what we do right now with the storyboarding and look like that. So one of the questions we ask is like the mama I made it. If you see, what did you do when you made your first $1 million? Those blow up. Relationship questions, those blow up for some reason. Like all of our relationship stuff just goes crazy. But that's what we do, right? And You were spot on, but we have multiple goals as a podcast, right? It's one to reach a certain demographic, one being, hey, the working professional like yourself that's trying to grow their career. And then the second person is the person who doesn't even know this is a viable option, right? So it's two different pieces of content that you need to create and in different ways you got to reach that user. And I think that's what we're struggling with. We have the great audience, we have the community, we have the relationships, but it's how to reach that same person simultaneously and who is more valuable at that point. Right? You know what I mean?
So something that I would ask you in terms of looking at that is, where have you seen people engage the most? Has it been listening to the podcast, or has it been over one social media platform? Or, how do you interact, maybe even following that? My second question, how do you also interact with folks, even after the podcast?
See, that's a great question. So we do have follow-ups, like with our guests. We create a group chat with all of our guests. So that's kind of like our media list. So we do have a document with all of our guests and stuff like that, and we can make those connections, right? Mm-hmm. But outside of that, connecting with our audience, not so much, right? So I'm just keeping it real. Whoever engages with our podcast.
No, I think she said, I think what she's saying is, I think she's asking like, what's been our biggest engagement?
Yeah, no, our biggest engagement.
Our biggest engagement is when we do not Instagram itself. It's the in person. It's the in person, not just Instagram. It's the in person interview. It's the in person content. It's the seeing us in real time in the neighborhoods, getting out there, and not just from a studio setting platform. I think that's been our biggest engagement, without question. That's been our biggest engagement. Yeah.
And then can you remind me, are you on TikTok as well?
Yes.
On TikTok, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
And how has TikTok been? Have you gone live on there ever?
We don't have the option to go live yet. You have to have the certain criteria.
Right.
Oh, gotcha.
So I think it's like 10,000 followers, a certain amount of watch time, stuff like that, right? So we haven't reached that criteria yet, but we reached a different point where we was actually stuck. Where when we first started on TikTok, we were getting 11,000 views, 4,000 views on the send out almost instantaneously, right? The biggest problem I have with TikTok is people come to the page, they see the profile, and for the amount of views and the profile visits that we get, we don't get enough followers. And that's the problem.
Well, I am more than happy to kind of look into it. I feel like I've done this kind of on my own and just, part of my social media. I think that, again, I think that there's almost like, it reminds me of when people ask me, I've been applying to all these jobs, and then I take a look at their resume, and not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's the way that their resume visibly looks. That's like, here's a quick tweak. Let's change this. So I almost think that, I'm more than happy to, because, I don't know, I can't see the comments if there's any other questions that anyone would like for me to answer, but I would love to offer just to like take a look at your social media and follow up with a few questions. And then I can just kind of take a vague assessment at a high level and then just send you some of my feedback if that works for you.
Send us the feedback.
Send us. Sally sends you the invoice.
Send us the feedback. Don't send us the invoice.
Matter of fact, now that you said that,
we gotta pay some bills. We'll be right back.
If y'all buy some damn merch, we can pay the invoice. How about that? If you get relationships and revenue on LinkedIn.
Oh man,
how we built ours from 0 to 20,000 followers, and how we've been able to generate $2 million of sales on LinkedIn. You download that app and you make sure you cop that so we can go pay Coco.
I'm gonna be honest. I just Coco, I don't want to be fun. You accept layaway?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like
even
project plan.
Even cars and houses, you can pay it off over time. So if you send the invoice,
a per project plan.
Don't be mad if I ask you, can I get 60 months?
I can be like, or like, for how much, what is that slogan when they're like, I'm gonna ask you a couple questions at the end here, and it's like 50% tip or whatever, what I mean?
Right. What's the percentage I gotta put down on this thing? Because please, Jarrett about to get us in trouble. You see how Jarrett say, I'm the one that's gonna do some shit to get us in trouble. Jarrett about to get us in trouble. You understand what I'm saying? Ladies and gentlemen, next show is gonna be from outside.
Yeah, right. Different setting.
It just might be. No, but I would love that. And I would love to do part 2 with the assessment.
Yeah.
Even if it's a short 10, 15 minutes, let's just come on screen, let's show them and do a follow-up. Like, look, this is what I learned after looking, because that's the value of this. We want people to see the growth and see the progression. Are we doing everything perfect? Absolutely not. Are we doing a lot of things well? Hell yeah. But I want people to see during our story, so when we get to that point, you know exactly what it took in our journey to get there. So we'd love that.
No, I think, you know, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, absolutely. I'll come in after. Go ahead.
You know, I was going to say something that just stands out to me, and just with creator people that I've also met, is that a lot of people just love the journey. So something that kind of stands out just right now is that people probably engage with you a lot better in an in-person setting, because it makes them feel that the experience is more relatable. Now, I understand that we're on Zoom and, you know, you can't go to Chicago and New York in a short period of time. But I think that in general, it sounds to me a little bit like your community is asking for you to make a little bit more of an intimate connection. And again, circumstances, you guys are running a show, you guys are very busy, but you know, if there are options, and again, I can happy to go through it. That kind of sounds like to me that even if it's not where, you know, you're going to Chicago or you're going across the country, is maybe you can post your highlights of being in person with someone, or even taking a call or posting an audio, you know, with the infographic or the graphic that you make for guests. Something that just at first glance to me just seems like you guys are very personal people, but I think that people want to see that beyond, know that that's experience kind of beyond a Zoom screen, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
You guys are doing fantastic.
Yeah. My fault. Yeah, you come on, book it. You got to get the Coco. You want to get the Coco, you got to go through us. Okay? Scan the damn QR code.
Coco, he's out of control. Coco is the hen den dude.
You want to
Friday, who cares?
Oh no, wait. You got to remember, we podcasted yesterday, so this is a double podcast. So it's the double hen den dudes back to back. But I do have a question for any aspiring. So we talk a lot of times on this show about the difference between education and on-the-job training, right? So let's say there is an aspiring person, male or female, that would like to become a PR specialist. Would you recommend them going to a traditional college and studying something in the media field, or would you recommend them applying after high school to a PR firm and saying, hey, do you have an open internship that I can come and do an internship? Because now, you know, internships are stipend, so they are paid, right?
Yeah.
And going that way, what would be your take on it? Which would be the most effective course of action to go about becoming a PR specialist?
And just so that I'm clear, do you mean, because you also said with or without schooling, but do you mean kind of post high school, or do you just
after high school, right?
Okay.
Because just to give you feedback, right?
Sure.
We talk about a lot of people being successful without college, right? So
100%.
I was successful. I've owned companies. I became a homeowner. I did all of that without technically a college degree or a college education. I went to college after the fact just to show my children that, guess what? It's never too late to go to school and then build upon what you already know, right? But I'm also a person that went through an internship, right? And went through an apprenticeship and learned from the job. So I have a unique perspective of both. Me personally, I like to lean towards the apprenticeships and the internships, because I feel like when you get a college education, that's cool. But in today's society, when you get to the job, the first thing they tell you is, forget everything you learned in school. Let us teach you, how we do it in real time. And that's if you get a job in the field that your degree is in, because we know the statistics of how many people get degrees and then don't even work in the field that you just spent all this money studying in. So that's why I asked that question.
Sure.
Yes.
So first of all, one of my all-time favorite, I was just at his convention. Gary V is one of my favorite.
In California,
I was at VCon. Yes,
VCon, my cousin was out there. I just told my cousin, my other cousin, he's a podcaster. He was out there. I just told my cousin, I didn't even know Gary V did this. We got to go out there.
Was Ramon, because we just interviewed Ramon Ray. Was he the host there, or was it the year before? Ramon Ray
was out there also?
He was the host. He hosted VCon.
Oh, wow.
I actually don't know, because I was also doing other things kind of on and off. And I was time was a construct there. And I only saw like a few people because there were big stages. So I'm not 100%. But VCon was amazing. I would talk about this all day long. But Gary V is one of my favorite examples of not having a classic education, but something that he did that was an educational experience, as you had, was seeking out a mentorship and then learning from that. And I think there's a lot of people right now who are younger, who happen to be Gen Z, who are getting online, who are YouTubers, who are making money based off of that they express interest in something that is not conventionally attractive to corporate culture. And so I think that, as long as you stay curious, and I've had friends who have spent, either had a gap year or, in COVID, a gap semester. So they ended up graduating a little bit later, which greatly benefited them. And then there's also people I know who were just simply not interested in school. And they're like, I've had a year, I'm done.
Right.
So something that I would say is that if you are fortunate enough to have a family who is accepting of that experience, and also if you are on the other side, fortunate enough to be able to pay for a 4-year school, that should also not stop you. Now, I had a traditional 4-year experience, and I am very privileged and very proud of that. And I also think that I really can't speak to that experience other than listening to Gary Vee, and I will reiterate what he says. but something that I've learned and something that I've seen or at least heard from people who have had concerns about that, or, especially in this job market, is I think that traditionally a company will look at you and say, 4-year college, okay, great. Okay. But if you don't, they're like, let me ask you 100 questions. Okay. And so I think that, again, especially if you're a person of color, if you are a minority, you are going to face traditional adversity based off of that. I'm not saying that you don't apply. What I'm saying is you got to think almost like an entrepreneurial mind. You have to think outside the box. Where am I going to find mentors? LinkedIn is free. I have premium. I've used premium for a very long time for certain benefits, but premium is also free for an extended period of time. Absolutely. Using those resources, especially if you know someone who's a student, Amazon has a lot of resources for students for, cheaper discounts on, kind of basic things as well. But if you can network, if you create an Amazon storefront and you get into either like drop shipping, if you get into social media, if you get into, a lot of these concepts, or if you simply just show your art online, I'm not saying that's a guarantee that you're going to blow up, but what's guaranteed is probably that you're going to be happy in what you're doing, despite that it's difficult. And it's going to that you are going to be disciplined enough, and you might find that you're just interested in, like Gary you're interested in being an entrepreneur. And I would also say as well, and something that Alex Hormozy talks about, Stephen Bartlett, a lot of these guys as well, is that, that something like that, even though I'm not an entrepreneur, but that takes time, and you get a lot of no's, and you get a lot of years of no's. And so I would just say that, if you're coming out of high school, listen to what you're interested in. The biggest thing that I hear, and especially myself included, from people who are older than me will say, I would give anything to be 18 again. Give anything to be 20. I give anything to be 30 again, because time is not bought. And so something that I would do, if you're fortunate enough and you have the means, if you have the support, is to express what your creativity is with your family, and to express perhaps that you want a little bit of time to do the things that you love. And if you save, if you work on things, I also will say I worked at a restaurant. I worked at a really great, one of the best restaurants, burgers in Chicago. And I also was working at a really lovely boutique called Winifred Grace that does permanent jewelry. And I specifically said, I want to learn about sales, and I want to learn about humility. Humility, you'll learn real quick in a restaurant. You got to sit there. People are hangry. People are parties of 5 who want to get sat right away, as much as people are, just interested in, the shopping experience. They want to learn more. I was welding jewelry. Those are 2 things that I came up with that I was able to learn. And despite people maybe not knowing that they were my mentor in certain ways, those are skills I'm really proud that I learned, because now when we do have a client or if we do have something that is more timely, I can take a moment, or I find that extra time versus being perhaps a little bit more reactive to that experience. And so I think that if you just, again, kind of going back to, I think someone had a question earlier, is looking for opportunities and looking for places to learn, that will guide you. And again, it is not going to be instant gratification. I understand, again, that I have a privilege of a background in classic 4-year college, but I would just say that if you are looking at jobs right now, bring those skills and show, hey, despite that I don't have 4 years of conventional education, here are the people that are going to vouch for me. Here are the skills that I've learned. And here's what I know about your industry, because I've learned it from these individuals who have helped me along the way. That's that as well.
Yeah, and shout out to Gary Vee. Gary Vee is my guy, connector.
He's awesome.
We already started the group chat. Just check your phone. The group chat's already started. Shout out to the brother Dave.
See?
And Dave, we need Gary Vee too. Get him on the show. We need him too.
Next year, I'm telling you.
We all rocking, baby. You know I love you. You're my guy.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. You know what I'm saying? Shout
Little
out to
shameless plug.
Man. Shout out to Tory T, man. Shout out to my brother Tory too, man. Always showing love, man. He helps us get a lot of guests, man. Shout out to those brothers, man. See, look at this. Look, you see it in YouTube dropping them free game, you know what I mean? Free gems, you know what I mean? A lot of games.
But that's, you know, Coco, you know, nothing. One thing that I hate about our people is, you know, we go through the struggle together, right? Because you can't struggle by yourself. So we go through the struggle together. But the moment that we find ourselves in a position of elevation, then it becomes, oh, I did this on my own. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
I did this on my own. Nobody helped me. And I'm like, did you live in a bubble? You understand it? Like, did you actually live in a bubble for your entire life? Because it's impossible for any human being. And I'm gonna say it again. It's impossible for any human being on this earth to have any type of success by yourself. There was somebody that talked to you, somebody that gave you tutelage, gave you knowledge. There's somebody that was emotional support. There was somebody that financially helped you, whether it was family, friends, or a complete stranger. We do not do anything on our own. Not only does it take a village to raise a child, but it takes a village to keep the village moving forward. You understand what I'm saying? So we created this show to be the village. One of our biggest problems with society is the fact that there's no platforms like this where people can come on. This is unscripted. We don't listen, Coco. I don't care about who you dated. I don't care about we don't care about none of that. We're not doing clickbait. What we want to celebrate is your accomplishments, but we want to bring to the light your story to show people in real time. This is what life really looks like. We don't want to sell Coco was instantly, you know, famous and successful, but she didn't have any struggle, because that's not a real narrative. Right. That's not a real narrative, and it's the breakdown between the narrative and the culture that we're connecting to, why people don't understand what's going on in real time, right? So we need to hear that, Coco, yes, you are successful, but guess what? Tell the people some of the, you know, your biggest hardships, right? Tell the people sometimes where we'll ask the question like, hey, Coco, was there ever a time you wanted to quit, where you was like, listen, you went through some shit where you were like, this shit, right? These are the stories that the people need to hear, because we go through this thing called life, and life's for everybody, regardless of race, color, creed, financial. It does not matter. Everybody kind of almost goes through the same exact thing. So this is why we've created this platform. This is why we named it More Than a Title. And this is why this is so important for the culture, because it's these stories and the way that you tell them now that's going to get the person that's coming up underneath you to be inspired to say, despite what I'm going through, whatever I'm going through, because everybody's going through something, I can still now see that there can be success down the road if I just take this path. And guess what? If I didn't think that, a lot of people never knew that PR could be, you know how many guests come on the show and say what they do for a job? And you know how many of our guests, our listeners and our followers say, I never even knew that was a job. I never even knew that was a career. I never even knew that you can make a life and it can be fruitful doing something like that. And I do that, let's just say, like as a hobby. So this is why, you know, we celebrate, you know, people like you, and we bring you on the show, because this is impact over metrics. There is no ROI. Yeah, there's no ROI for these type of stories. You see how Dave Huey connected. You see how our brother Doug connected. But those are people that are higher up. But the people that you're gonna really connect to are the people that are watching that you might not never get the comment from, right? The people that are watching that are saying, I see myself in Coco, and I believe now that I've heard her story and heard her explanation, I believe in myself enough to do that. And push for it. Yeah, absolutely.
And shout out to David Getman. He just sent the picture of him and Gary V.
Okay, you acting up now, Dave.
He put it in the group chat.
It's not group chat. Yeah,
what we doing?
Perfect example, right? Shout out to Dave Huey. We met Dave Huey, and the reason we treat Dave is because the way we do is because Dave treats us the way he did. He met us, he came on the show, and he gave of himself without asking, right? And he provided opportunities for us, and we showed up, and whatever the opportunity was, we had the ability to say yay or nay. So when he asked for an opportunity or something, we're definitely gonna make it happen. And that's the way the world needs to work, right? We need to help each other out and provide opportunities for each other, and just not, you know, just not gatekeep and feel like, you know, I'm I'm here, I made it, nobody else matters or everybody's beneath me. Like we got to get rid of that mentality, man.
Because it's not many of us.
Yeah, because it's not many of us anyway. It's not many of us anyway at a certain level. So that this is why we do it, Coco. So we appreciate you so much, man. Like
I ain't gonna front. This was a dope ass episode.
Yeah,
this was
thank you.
Yeah,
I hope that people were able to listen and hopefully gain value out of this conversation, because I just want to share my experience and of course help and provide guidance. And my industry is really entertaining. I promise you will learn a lot, and that is something that is a huge value of mine. I love to learn, so I hope that people gathered value from that. And I really appreciate
it. They did. No, we're gonna stop using hope. We're gonna stop saying hope. No, they did.
You was talking. I want to lighten it up a little bit, Coco. So you've been to school, it's clear that you take your work seriously and everything like that. This is a question that we like to ask our guests too. But what does Coco like to do to relax, right? Because mental fortitude is so important, right? The money is good, but here, right? What is it worth when you're mentally unstable and you don't like going to work and things of that nature? So what does Coco like to do to relax when she wants to step away from work? Can you give the viewers an answer on that?
Yeah, I think I've been a little bit more dialed in. I think this is a season where I'm a little bit busier, and something that I love to do, I love to travel. I love New York. I was in New York earlier this summer. I went to LA for VCon. So I think that just change of scenery, I'm fortunate to travel as I'd like. And something else with that is, family and friends. One of my really good friends, we play soccer. We're on a soccer league together. And that was something I've been playing soccer for probably over 12 years now. So it's something I love to do. And and for anyone else, for an equivalent is exercise. I've been after competitive sport. I was in the gym a lot. So that's something that is a constant in my life, my family and friends as well. And I think that, being rooted in that has been really beneficial, especially whether they realized it or not during really difficult times. And, I think that also another thing that I'm learning as well, because I think that being in a job requires you to be quite logical, is where do you express creativity? And I've just found that content creation has been really fun. I don't really care about the views, but something that I would love to talk about is not necessarily just, helping with jobs, but just being there kind of, I'm an only child. So feeling like if someone feels like I'm their big sister would be the coolest thing ever. And so I'm just kind of like, I'd love if anyone gains any insight from my experience, that's all I care about. And so I've really just been trying to focus on a little bit of content. And of course, sleep and rest is necessary. It is also a work in progress, but I am definitely loving, self-care and leaning into that a lot. So for any of you who are, kind of looking for a way to balance your work and your life, I think that, if you just kind of walk outside, maybe not in Chicago, it's been quite hot, or, even just Grubhub your favorite meal or something like that, I think is just a little way that you can show yourself that you appreciate yourself, not just through material, but even just in your creativity, and set a goal for that, just for once a week or just, in general, when you have a day off, I think really does make the difference, especially when you're surrounded by people who, want to support you and want to see you win. And that's a huge thing as well. Be around people who want to see you win. You will grow up and you will realize that maybe not everyone else perhaps acts that way. And that's where I think you should assess and really value the people who do and who have been there all along.
Oh, same time.
I just want to say, you caught me off guard with the soccer. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay.
Again, I'm not gonna lie. Like I look at you and you I'm not saying women don't play soccer, but I didn't get soccer from you. Like, if you just said like tennis or something like that, I'm like, okay, tennis, soccer.
I appreciate tennis, but
like soccer, that caught me off guard. I'm not gonna lie. Soccer.
I'm 100%. I am a sweeper defender. If I am not in like the heat of it, it's like I need to be there. So I love the idea of being part of my team, and I love soccer so much. So yeah, It's awesome.
I have to get my Ronaldo.
That's what I'm saying. I ain't gonna lie, because that caught me off guard. She was like, "Yeah, I like soccer." I was like, "Wait, soccer? Like the ball?"
12 years.
You mean football?
American soccer, like football or soccer. Like
I used to actually play American football for fun.
Right.
And then I've been playing soccer since I was like 4, and it's just been something that I don't have to think about. That's also another thing as well. It's like, if there's something that's creative or even in sport or in the arts where you almost are like in a meditative state, but you just like aren't thinking about, do I like this? Do I have to do this? Your brain is not on. Do that thing for a while and stick with that, because that will make all the difference for how you recuperate from the rest of your week.
It's a fact.
The gym thing is me. I'm gym rat. That's my decompression. So when she said gym, yes.
I got you. I know all about the macros. I know all of it.
Listen, meal prep upstairs. We got our stacks upstairs. Me and my son be in the gym, and we get to it. So one of the other companies that I had started before we started this was a fitness company. It's called Iron Lions Fitness, and we do nutritional education, we do fitness education, and we do personal training, and that was I did that to give back to my community. I didn't really charge a lot. I was one of the actual cheapest personal trainers out there by choice, right? Because that was my way of giving back, because I feel like, again, health is wealth. It doesn't matter how much you are worth, right? If the body's not right, we spend so much money on our clothing and cars and houses, and all these things except ourselves, right? And if you don't invest in yourself, how do you enjoy anything if you're not healthy? So that was one of the ways, and we're going to continue to do that, further down the line. But, health is always wealth. So when you said gym, like I said, that's a direct connection for me for it. You know what I mean?
That's a fact, man.
Even Cuzzo started his journey.
Wait, no, it don't look crazy now when it's oiled. Yo, in the sunlight, I promise you, in the sunlight, it'll look crazy. I said, no, it's not. It's not. It's borderline, and it's not. It's not. I'm not talking to you.
What the is wrong with this guy? Am I kidding me or what?
Okay, but that was it. Okay, so another question we like to ask our guests, Coco, and if it's not too personal, but this is really relevant to the culture, right? You being a consummate professional and working a lot and things of that nature, how has that affected you now as you identifying as a Black woman in your relationship, in your love life? Do you find it hard to meet other people that are on your level? Do you find it hard to meet men that understand, that are like-minded, that are on, that share your same goals? If you don't mind speaking about that, because that's very important also, right? Career is good, but family, we cannot forget the family aspect of it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that family and friends are very important. When it comes to my values, it's universal. So I don't really care what relationship it extends to. And what that's going to look like is making sure that I feel valued. And I'm not really interested in someone feeling intimidated by me based on what my goals are, because I typically feel that I have everything to learn from other people. So that just kind of goes across the board. And I think that that's really guided me. And I've been quite successful in cultivating relationships that have gone between professional and private. And I think that that is something that I recommend for people, is, something that I actually told one of my mentees, and this was more on a professional side, but I said it's really personal as well, is when you're looking for a job or when you're looking to, kind of move around different companies, all of that is relationship building. If someone is ghosting you, if someone is, not getting back to you in a timely period, and it's, 3 weeks after you've applied for a job, that's not a great indication. Of course, I definitely would say being empathetic to recruiters, because there are not a lot of them out there, of course. But if you're being ghosted, if you feel left confused, that's universal for job and for private. And so one of the things that I told her was, write down all of your values. If you have values about, investing in DE&I, if you have values about, how you want to feel as an employee, that goes across the board. That goes to your family relationships, that goes anywhere. So I think that a lot of times, for anyone who's listening, who's, in between jobs, who's, looking for maybe their next steps in their creative process, look at the relationship and the values that you have with yourself and see how that also plays out with other people. And that will be quite a universal experience.
Beat you to it.
Coco gives very politically correct.
Yo, your media training is crazy.
Training is crazy.
That's what I want to do. We gotta do the skit. We gotta do the skit.
Our media training is crazy.
We got
let's get to it. I wanted to know the answer because we had a relationship. Remember, like we talk about the metrics and what goes, right? We talk about the metrics and what goes. One of the biggest things that goes with our listeners is relationships, right? We have had people that come on and say, listen, I'm a consummate professional, and by me pursuing my career, it has cost me my relationship. It has cost me my marriage, right?
Yeah.
Again, that's why I asked you that question, because we asked a lot of our guests that question, because we cannot stray away from the fact that family is super important, a significant other, a support system. Remember, I talked about we cannot do this on our own. A support system is super important. You said that you were raised by a single mom, right? I was raised by a single mom. Right.
Shout out to them.
Right. Shout out to them. Right? I was raised by a single mom, but Jarrett was raised by both parents, right? Yeah. So you see, so again, right, it's very important to tap into, you know, the personal relationships as well as the business relationships, because they affect each other. If your personal relationships are good, then they can support you in business, right? But if they're not, then it can be almost at a detriment to where some people will make a decision. Do I give up my dreams? And this has happened, and you've heard of this happening a many a day. A lot of people will say they have given up their dreams and aspirations for their business and for their personal growth, for their personal and private relationship. Now, whether that's worked out or not, you know, obviously there's both sides of the ladder, but it's very important to address it. And then another thing that we like to talk about is you being, again, a very professional woman, and men being intimidated by your success, right? By your success, because in this climate, in the way that it is now, and the way that, you know, women are portraying that they want to be dated and courted and things of that nature, it can create a very hostile climate where it's like nobody wants to, you know, come up to me and even start a conversation no more, because they feel like I'm too above their level, or I'm on the same level, and my values will be different. So that's why we ask those type of questions, because again, you know, it's very important for our culture to understand the differences, right? You can be successful from a one-parent household. You can also be successful from a two-parent household. You understand what I'm saying? You can be successful with not being married, and we've had guests that don't have any children, but you can also be successful with having a spouse, a significant other, and children, right?
We've also had guests too on the flip side where the woman was actually going to corporate and the man retired to stay with the kid.
Right.
And we've had so many different stories that were shout out to them, man. It was it was love, man.
Yeah. But again, it from inner city youth, you come from Chicago, we come from New York, from the Bronx.
Big Bronx.
It's two sides of a different coin, right? Mm-hmm. The same thing. When you come from these type of environments, more often than not, you are not shown a certain way to go about things, right? Like I said, Jarrett was raised by two parents. He understands the value of two parents. I was raised by a single mother. I wasn't shown that as an early age. Not to say that I didn't develop the understanding for it later, but the statistics are different between people that are raised in two-parent households, regardless of culture, to the people that are raised in single-parent households, right? Whether woman or man, right? So I was raised by a single woman, but guess what? I'm a single father. My son's sitting across from me. He'll be 23, and I've had custody of him since he was like 1. He'll be 23. So I raised him as a single father, right? And so again, like, it's important to understand these dynamics to show our culture that just because you're going through a specific situation is not a detriment to you. It doesn't mean that you cannot be successful in life and you know, and in your private life and in relationships and in economically. It just goes to show you that your path is different.
Yeah. I would say that, you know, no one's path is going to look the same. And, and I also want to say that I'm very privileged in a lot of what my mom can provide for me. And also that I had a 4-year education as well that my family provided for me. And so I would also say that I was not shown the ways traditionally for, you know, maybe someone who is judged with two parents. And I think that, you know, as I've gotten older and, you know, I love my mom, and and I have been there for the ride, as you know, from your single parent as well, and also being a single parent, and something that I have had to look at, and it's not been, it has been a little bit of both, but it really is in general in life at not looking at the lack. And I think that takes a tremendous amount of bravery and skill and courage. And it's also a habit you need to instill in yourself. And that's something that comes from your values. And so that's something I really have to practice now, is not looking at the lack. That comes from when you're, in the door and you're interviewing for a job and you're saying, there's 10 people ahead of me, they're amazing, or I've seen them from LinkedIn, or I've seen them in this way or in this context, or even content creators. There's always going to be someone who is better than you. But what you need to do instead of externalizing the competitiveness, you need to internalize it with yourself so that you can be better, and you can be better based on what your values are and where you see yourself going. And that's something that has been a tremendous 180. It's a mindset shift. I've surrounded my mental self, even though I physically don't see them, but I've mentally surrounded myself with a Jay Shetty, with a Gary Vee, with Mel Robbins. And, sometimes you go in ebbs and flows of, you're human's going to human, and you're just going to feel the emotions. You were not built as like machines as well. We have to take time to be emotional and around people, if you're fortunate to have a support system, because I've known people who don't, and they have, great people as well. Yeah. And I think that, not looking at the lack, and again, that's a big ask for yourself to kind of look at, because that takes time, but it's really, just like the gym, you got to mentally start the workout. And I think I've learned that from some of my closest relationships that they've taught me, or skills that they've taught me that, I felt that I lacked. And I was like, well, I don't have this, or I don't have that skill set. And it's like, you can do it. And it sounds really fake, but it's classic fake it till you make it. And in the context of mindset, in the context of anything that you want. And that's, something that I've been working towards for a long time, whether it's in career, whether it's in skills that I want to learn. And so, as you know, with support systems, they will check you. And I think that's a really great benefit of having people close to you. And if you're someone who maybe doesn't particularly have family, but you consider friends family, and, you have people who are not blood, lean on them, because people around you are capable. And I'd also say, adults are adults too. So, people have that capacity as well. And if you, need the extra support, mentally surround yourself with podcasts like this one, where you can learn some of those skills and all of those things.
We love that. We love that. Listen, Coco, this has been a phenomenal episode. Not only for us, but obviously you can see by the comments and just the reactions from the viewers, right, that they have received your message fully. Thanks. So once again, from the More Than the Title family, we would like to thank you for, just allowing us the privilege of coming on the show, telling your story and being vulnerable, and just, knowing that we're going to take care of it and we're going to present it in the way that you exactly want it to be presented. No clickbait stuff, no, stuff like that. Do me a favor, let the people are going to want to get in contact with you. Sure. Let the people know the easiest and most convenient way to get in contact with you if they want to reach out to you. Because I'm pretty sure they do. Yeah.
Should I put that in the comments, or should I verbalize that?
No, verbalize it. Right? Yeah, verbalize
Absolutely. It. So you can find me. My first name is Coco. My last name is Sharp. You can find me on LinkedIn for number one, especially if you have any job questions. Otherwise, on social media, I'm Coco.mar, Coco Mar. And then TikTok is my first my last name, Coco.Sharp. So you can kind of find me across different channels, and I promise one channel will link you to the other. But yeah, it was wonderful to be on this show, and this opportunity has been amazing. And I really am so glad to be part of your network. So I really appreciate you guys taking the time, and you guys asked some wonderful questions. And I just look forward to hearing so much more about your podcast. And I will promise I will not invoice you, but I will definitely do a little bit of an inventory.
Please. No, but I just wanted to end it off though. Like I said, you're our first Gen Z professional on the show. Yeah. And I just want to say I'm super impressed. Yeah. If this is what the future of our Black young professionals look like, we're in a good space. Corporate's going to look very different in the next couple of years. Straight up. And I needed to hear this episode. I'm glad people are inspired by this episode. Just know we're proud of you. You got big brothers now in New York. So if you're in New York, you come through. It's red carpet. We're good. And you know, I look forward to see where
I'm
you
not
are
playing no soccer, Coco. I'm just gonna put it out there right now.
That's okay. That's what
I just got him playing golf. Yeah,
that's
we just
okay.
started tennis.
If you want to do anything else, fine. But soccer and golf, I just can't get with it.
Oh no, yo, Dave Hugh, you hear this? Your par for peace be ready next year.
Yeah,
we was killing it. We was killing it.
I'm a bag carrier.
See, this is what more than a title. I'm going after John Starks next year. I'm going to Top Golf.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
driving to Top Golf.
What we got coming up next week, Cuzzo? What we got coming up next week?
Isaiah Corbin, founder of Exotic Creations, one of the hottest food brands in New York, coming through September 3rd, the day after Labor Day. September 5th, we have fan appreciation, and we're still confirming, but we're working on the details. We're looking like September 10th. Dennis McDonald, aka Reggie from Bad Boys, pulling up here. We got Warren Senna after. We've got Larry Hall, who's the global communication manager.
Adidas. Yes,
he's coming through on the 17th. We just got a great lineup, man. We're so grateful.
September gonna be fire. We got some fire episodes.
I'm just excited, man. I'm grateful, like you said, to do what we love to do, to have this energy, to have this show, man, to learn and get this game and give it back to y'all.
There it is.
Shit, straight up.
So you know what it is. We're gonna leave y'all on this. What we leave y'all on every time, man. Understand Coco is a perfect example of that. The dream is free. The dream is free, but the hustle. Shit, that's sold separately.
What you know about me? Seen it all, heard it all. Oh, what you know about me?